So here is Burton SLX. This is just their flagship boot. This is super expensive, but it's, you know, it's got some amazing tech. And let's go through some of the positives and negatives of you know, the Burton SLX. So first off, we'll get to these a little bit later, but first off, these imprint 5 liners are great in terms of how long they retain their flex. It's closed cell foam and it just doesn't break down very quick. So, you know, combined with this articulating cuff, this boot just retains its flex so much longer. You know, you can start off being much softer than a Driver X, but after the Driver X has kind of worn down and slowly fallen apart and you know, gotten soft, even with all the extra flex retention tech they have, you know, after 70, 80 days, this will be the more responsive boot, and it just really does a great job. But here's one of the bummers is the Imprint 5 liner and all the liners changed out their rad pads. It used to be 2 rubber things stitched onto this tongue. Now it's just like a laminate that's just barely helpful. And so, you know, the tongue is more likely, instead of flex like this, when you lean forward, it's more likely to go like this, right around the ankle where the rad pads are. But so far I haven't experienced that or any discomfort or folding like I did, like, I think it was like 5 years ago before the rad pad, or somewhere around there. Can't remember the exact, but when Burton softened up their boots and went a little lighter, all of them would just fold at the tongue, and it just really sucked. And then they introduced the rad pad, and now it just seems like they forgot about how bad it was before, and you know, toned down the rad pad, tried to do some cost cutting and spray on some stuff instead of you know, use real rubber. So that's one of the bummers. Here's the other bummer. This is all EVA foam. So all the orange here is you know, EVA, and so you actually have EVA touching the pavement. However, the positive side is you have Vibram, so you have real rubber here, and this is real rubber here. This is almost like, feels almost like plastic. It is so hard, and it actually, I don't know how good it's going to be in terms of traction on ice, and it's much harder. So even though you've got a lot of shock absorption here, and you've got the soft EVA foam, you have these really hard, you know, kind of like X patterns on the toe and the heel with this really hard rubber that really kind of reduce the shock absorption. Even though it's got a lot of great, it has the potential for great shock absorption, but on the positive side, it gives you more response heel to toe because you have that strong area there, and it's kind of like, as you can see, it's kind of where you're putting most of your pressure on your forward lean and putting most of your pressure on your heel lean, so it gives you a little more response there. Also, kind of weird, but you know, they talk about dual density padding, and like, for example, last year's SLX didn't have this like concave thing going on with the toe, and I don't know if you can see that, like I can see it, but we'll put it up real close here. You can kind of see how it doesn't have really an easy lean, and that's probably one of the only real problems for me, because I really like how most of the Burton boots, kind of like, for example, if we take a look at the Imperial and the Ions and so many other boots, they have this, see how it's almost canted, it has an angle, and see where this one is, it's like, okay, so here, let me scoot this over, see how this is kind of like at an angle, and this is just straight up and down, so you're kind of stuck like this, you don't have that natural you know, inward lean, and it doesn't, see how this has just such an easy roll, and see how this one, it like, I can feel it like want to stop me here before I lean in. So, you know, that's that's a little bit of a problem. But now the positives. The fit is so much better this year. Last year my SLXs felt like they were in between sizes. They felt like they were 8 3/4 instead of a 9. And so the right one felt a little tight and the left one felt pretty good actually. Where this year the right feels perfect and the left just needs just a little tweaking. I'm probably just going to put a little bit of EVA foam in the heel and it'll be fit perfect. So because my left's a little bit smaller than my right. So these now fit like the rest of the other Burton boots. These Imprint 5 liners last forever, but they do take a little bit longer to break in, and they do have hot spots when you first started. At least most of us did. And I strongly suggest going into a shop or, you know, if you know what you're doing, heat mold them and, you know, heat these boots up, follow the Burton instructions and put them in and, you know, they'll expand out a little bit and they'll get a little more, they'll conform more to your toes. Now, these are little cool things. Let's say you're like, you know, like maybe let's say you're like a 9 1/4. You know, you're not really a 9 1/2, but you're not a 9 either. You can put these into the heel right here. You remove the tape on the back here and you slap them in there and they give you a little bit of a rise. So here, we'll use the proper one. You get a little bit of a rise out of the boot, out of the liner, puts you up a little higher without, with. You can also, I think you can also easily put them in your boot here too, but it gives you a little more forward lean, but it also allows somebody who's just a little bit big for a boot to fit the boot better. And it also gives you a lot of extra shock absorption. Still, with this you know, really hard rubber here, it doesn't feel like it adds as much as you would think. And then here's one of the real positives though, is they really fixed the lacing system. So it just really feels like it wraps around your foot a lot better this year. And this boot just fits me so much better than last year's SLX. The look is just, you know, it's just a sexy look. I love that smell. You know, last year they had, I can never say this, but it's like Scholler, like kind of like a shell technology that's used for like motorcycle riders to, you know, it's like an abrasion resistant material or something like that. This year it's kind of like a rubbery material and it doesn't look like it's as durable. This on the back here looks great, but all in all, you know, the SLX is just one of those boots, just, you know, these things last forever. You know, like I've had these for many years, so has Jimbo, and one of the really amazing things about these boots is they just retain their flex forever. Jimbo has one that had over 300 days on it, and it's still got flex left, which is just weird. You know, usually at that point, any boot's a sock. So, you know, you pay a shit ton of money for these, but you really get what you pay for. You're almost getting 2 boots because of the flex retention. You know, yeah, lots of parts of the boot, you know, break down, and you know it does. You know, the exterior doesn't get pretty, and you have issues. But you know, the sole can get worn away. Like this softer EVA foam will probably wear away pretty quick. You know, and I don't know if this, you know, this really hard, like almost plastic rubber will soften up over time, but you know, you get little issues and wear and stuff like that, but the overall flex hangs in there for a really long time. So really like these SLXs. If they just had rubber rad pads, a little bit softer, you know, black rubber here, and you know, a little bit of an inward lean, these things would be like my absolute perfect boot. But they're still amazing, and it's still very worth riding. and I'll just ride these more with more canted bindings, so I get a little more inward lean. Or if I'm riding these for a long time and this concave is really bothering me, I might get crazy and just like take a little sander to this and just sand it down even, so I've got a little bit more of an inward roll, and I get to utilize the dual density foam like I could with last year's SLXs. But the fit, the wrap, the flexor tension, the feel makes these boots just really hard to beat out there. So that's the SLX.